Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori and this is Holy City Mystic. Thank you so much for being here. So today we are going to talk about the scary planets. And when I say that, there's probably a planet or two that pops into your mind. One of them is not a planet, it's Chiron. And then the other two are Pluto and Saturn. Now before I get started, I just want to talk about what it's like to be human. One of the reasons why we come to Earth is to learn everything we can, and we learn through living. We learn through experience, trials, hardships, joy, love, all those things. That's the best teacher. So when it comes to your astrology chart and seeing these indications of where you're going to grow the most, a lot of people view it as like a curse, or you get that like scared feeling like, oh my god, Pluto is here, or Saturn is going over my whatchamacallit, or whatever it is. So I really just want to talk about the planets and the purpose that they serve and why they're going to be your best teachers, and the ones that in the end I hope you're the most thankful for. So first, let's talk about Saturn. Now, if you're viewing your entire life like a story, Saturn is going to be your conflict. You can't have a story without conflict. Nobody is going to read a story where it starts and ends the exact same and nothing happens. That's going to be pretty boring and also pretty unrealistic, because throughout the day we're experiencing conflicts constantly. Throughout our life we experience other conflicts that are bigger, life-changing. A lot of those have to do with Saturn. So whenever Saturn is crossing some place in your chart, just remember that it's moving the story forward. It's changing things for you. It's growing things for you. I have two examples that I use pretty often in readings that I want to leave with you guys here. It was Rick Levine that said, you have the most free will when Saturn comes through a sign. So I really liked this analogy of everything in a room levitating. So Saturn is going through an area of your chart all the time. It's always somewhere. Whether you're having a Saturn return, a Saturn opposition, or it's just going through your third house randomly. And so what Saturn does is it makes everything in the room levitate. All the art is hanging in the middle of the room, the rug is floating, the furniture is just kind of like hanging out in midair. So you can walk in there and be like, oh my god, what a mess, and like curl up in a corner and wait till everything goes back to normal. But usually when it drops, it's not normal. It dropped in kind of a weird position. Or you can use this time to take a look at what you really want in the room. Because if everything's floating in the middle of the room, it doesn't take a lot of elbow grease to be able to take something out of the room and then replace it with something that you actually like. And so you have all this time, usually 2.5, 3 years, where Saturn is in a sign where you can change anything you want about that room. You can be like, I really hated that carpet. I'm so glad I have the opportunity to switch it out without having to move everything around. And so when Saturn actually leaves, the room can be the exact way that you want it to be. So another analogy that I really like for Saturn is that of a dresser. So you have a dresser, it has a bunch of stuff in there. First of all, Saturn is time. Saturn is the teacher. He is the one that comes through and he shows us things that we either haven't been paying attention to, or things that we haven't been working on, we need to, stuff like that. And so as Saturn comes through, he takes a drawer out of the dresser and he dumps it out. And he tells you to go through it and make sure that you want everything in there. And there might be some things in there where you're just like, I didn't know I still had this. I can't believe I was holding on to this after so many years. Where did it even come from? No, I'm going to get rid of that. And then you fold everything that you want to keep and put it back in the drawer and put it back. Now Saturn goes through and he does that for everything. Some drawers are going to have things that we didn't even know about that we really want to get rid of. Other drawers are going to have things that we've been paying attention to and we really want. All those decisions have been very meticulously made and we want to hold on to everything in there. And so when he dumps it out, all we have to do is pick it up and put it back in. It's not a big deal because we've been working on it. Any lessons that we've learned, we want to hang on to. And so as Saturn is going through and changing things, causing those upsets. Just remember, it's just showing us what we've been working on or what we haven't been working on and we need to, or we haven't been working on because it's finally time for us to let it go. Now, another thing about Saturn, I think we've all had this experience where we all have a memory. Someone has wronged us, someone has hurt us, and we have this feeling of, if I let this go, I'm somehow compromising myself. Now, there's a whole debate there about forgiveness and what it really means to let something go and should you and like all this stuff, but when things come up and you feel that resistance to, I don't want to let that go, I'm still angry, I'm not done being angry about that thing. When Saturn comes through that area, it will cause a crisis where either that lesson will repeat or you will have an opportunity to finally let it go. So that's another thing to know. Just know about yourself. Like, there are going to be things in your life that you are holding on to that you really don't want to let go of. And if you don't let them go, if you don't learn from it, forgive the other person, forgive yourself most importantly, then those lessons are going to repeat. So that's just another thing to keep in mind as Saturn is going through the different areas of your chart. So the next one we're going to talk about is Pluto. Now, Pluto, again, if we're looking at this like a story, like a book that somebody has written about you and you get to be the main character, Pluto is going to be your character arc. You are not going to enter the story the same way that you leave the story. Now, you think about very common books like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, or even movies like Boyhood or something like that, where it's a person over a long period of time and they have a character arc. At the beginning, they're probably very naive. In the middle, they probably suck. And then at the end, they're amazing. They've heard what they need to hear. They've learned all the lessons. They've gone through all the things. And so what Pluto does is it shows us where we are young, where we are naive, where we don't know enough to make any good decisions. It shows us where we suck. And then it takes us through this process of polishing our edges, polishing until we are shiny and bright and new and amazing. And at the end, we have this calmness about us. We have this deepened sense of self, this deepened sense of reality and what the world really means. And it's important to not get stuck at any point in that journey. Don't wish you could go back to childhood and be naive. Don't wish that you could go back to a certain time where you didn't know that you sucked, because that's another part of the human experience. We all suck. We all need to grow. We all need to change and evolve. That's why we're here. That's why we have children, is to teach them how to be amazing, to walk them through this life with all the ups and downs and hardships and craziness that goes on. And so don't get stuck in the part where you suck either. Don't get stuck just being resentful and angry and not liking yourself, not liking your life, all that stuff. Allow yourself to be polished. Allow yourself to go through all these things and turn into the person that you were always meant to be, the best version of yourself that is within all of us to be. So as Pluto goes through, get excited, get curious, be like, okay, what are you going to show me here? What do I need to learn in order to evolve to who I'm going to be at the end of my story? To evolve into the adult Harry Potter, or the Frodo who actually goes on to the Grey Havens, or whatever it is, like in Boyhood, just sticking with all the analogies, in Boyhood when he goes off to college and he feels confident that now he's a man. Like, all of those things, they come after a hard-won journey. And so don't be afraid of Pluto. It's there, it's in everybody's chart somewhere, it's going through everybody's chart somewhere. Pluto is one of those where, just because it's going through your fourth house doesn't mean that it's ever going to touch somebody else's fourth house, just because it's so slow moving. So just remember that, learn the lessons, go with the flow, it'll all shake out in the end. So the last one I want to talk about is Chiron. Now, a lot of people, they're like, oh no, Chiron, this is where I have to grow and heal and whatnot. Yeah, you do. The way I see Chiron is our ache to be normal. Chiron is the area of our chart where we just wish so fervently that we could be like our neighbor. We could be normal, but we're not. We were born with this wound. Either we were born with it because it happened in a past life, or it happened early on in childhood where somebody gave us this wound. Somebody gave us this thing that we had to heal. And we are not normal because of it. And we want to be. We experience this ache, almost like nostalgia, like, why can't I be? And with that ache comes comfort. And it's always one for one. It's building you better. And it's like you feel this pain and then you feel this comfort with Chiron. And if you think about the healing process, even in the human body, it usually starts out really freaking painful. Like either you have a cold and, a tickle in your throat and like all this stuff, and it sucks while you're going through it, and then feeling better, your body is exhausted and you have to like get a bunch more sleep. Maybe your throat's raw from all the coughing. Switching to something else. Maybe you got a physical wound where you are in pain, something happened, maybe you have to have surgery, maybe you have to reset a bone, something like that. And there is this period of healing that is not fun. It's a period of babying yourself in this area, of making sure that you have everything that you need to be able to move forward. And so Chiron is also an opportunity for us to be the adult that we needed when we were kids. It's really easy to fall into that victim mindset where you're just like, oh, I never had an adult that I could look up to. All the adults in my life sucked, or I only had my grandma, that was the only adult in my life, or stuff like that, where you can be like, well, of course I'm behind. I was never given an opportunity to step forward. Once you're an adult, you don't have an excuse. You really don't, because now you can be that adult that you needed. And this might take some journaling, this might take some time off, some meditation to really contemplate this, but think about who you needed in your life when you were a kid and how you can become that person now. I don't necessarily mean that person for other kids or that person for other people in your life. But how can you be that for your own inner child? How can you nurture yourself in the way that you really needed as a kid that you never got, but now you have the opportunity to heal that part? And maybe it is something bigger than yourself where you're just like, well, I really just never had community. Join a community. I mean, there's some great ones out, like churches, different like sporting events that you can do, even like powerlifting and stuff like that. Like there's communities built around that. You can find a community at this point. You just have to step out of the victim mentality and into the empowered mentality where you're like, it is my job to now heal this part. And also remember, everybody has Chiron somewhere. All of these like scary planets, everybody has them somewhere. Everybody has this journey that they have to go through to be who they are at the end of the day. So another piece of advice that I would give you is just stop every now and then and take a look at how far you've come. Even if you're in a space in your life right now where you're not happy with who you are or the decisions that you've made, stop and take a look at what you now know. Things that you didn't know when you first made those decisions. You have different goals now. Who you are as a person now is nothing like the person who initially made those decisions that you're not happy with. Or maybe you're in a place where you're just like, I hope everything stays this good because I'm really happy right now and things are really going well, but I see Pluto coming up. It's about to touch my IC. I'm really worried about that. Whatever it is, just look at how far you've come. Know that you are in the exact right spot that you need to be right now, and you're right on time for your story. Like your story is going to play out with or without you. So either you can curl up in a ball and then just watch it play out, or you can engage. You can be a part of it. You can actually be there on the front. It's almost like being on the front of the ship where you're seeing everything that's coming up and you're ready for it, versus down in the bottom of the ship where you're like feeling all the shakes and you're kind of feeling seasick and like all this stuff. You're allowed to take charge. You are allowed to be the person that you want to be. I think it was Alan Watts who says, we're under no obligation to be the person we were 5 minutes ago. If I'm misquoting that and it was somebody else, then I'm very sorry. But think about that. Think about quotes like that, where it's like, it's your job as a person to evolve into a better version of yourself, no matter if you're 85 or 15. Like, that is your job as a person. So how are you taking that on? How are you moving forward in life? So I hope this helps you not be afraid of these planets, because these planets are the things that move your story forward. You can't move forward very far with just the personal planets. Like Venus is amazing, and Mars is amazing, and Mercury is amazing also. The moon, these are all great planets, but Pluto, Chiron, and Saturn, I feel like they're the driving force. They're the ones that actually tell your story. So don't be afraid of them. And I hope you guys are doing okay. And yeah, take care. I'm signing off. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.